Hello and welcome to our webcast for March 6th, 2020.
Mm, Still
Yeah,
2020.
yeah, still. My name is Christian Debré and this is Amy Asbrook, the director of Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet.
Hello.
And also joining us somewhere here, okay, right, okay, somewhere here, Taylor Ayat, a policy analysis and outreach coordinator. Toujours
Hi.
Not Dead Yet is a non-religious organization by and for people with disabilities and our allies. We believe that the choice to die is not free as long as old, ill, and disabled people don't have a free choice in where and how they live, and that must change.
Yes.
So, we have two subjects today. The first one is a new UN report restates the special rapporteur's position on assisted suicide and euthanasia. The second one is the court grants decision extension to pass the new MAiD law. So Amy Asbrook will help us through those subjects.
Well, I will do my best anyway. So, okay. A new UN report restates the special on assisted suicide and euthanasia. We learned on Tuesday of a new report from the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, Catalina de Vandas Aguia. It studies the impact of ableism, which is the discrimination based on disability, in medical and scientific practice, including assisted suicide and euthanasia. The press release announcing the report, entitled New Eugenics, UN Disability Expert Warns Against Ableism in Medical Practice, signaled the serious concerns expressed by Ms. de Vendas over the bioethics issue covered in the 18-page report. This is the first statement on bioethics by the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and the first application of the principles contained in the 2005 UNESCO Universal Declaration on Bioethics and Human Rights to People with Disabilities.
Wow. So this is from UN.
If you look at the press release, you'll notice that the word ableism is in quotation marks. Are they there because the person who formatted the report took the word directly from the rapporteur's remarks? Because the term is new to the UN, because the term isn't known by many people and its use is being questioned, or something else?
Yeah, it's a good question. Reasonable question. Who knows? Okay. Paragraph 35 of the report concerns withholding and withdrawing of life-sustaining treatment on the basis of disability. The text says, it has been reported that physicians may exert pressure, end quote, on patients, quote, based on the belief that further treatment would be futile, non-beneficial, or potentially inappropriate, particularly for patients with severe impairments, end of quote. So I don't know why in diplomatic documents and stuff, they always have to say things in this really softly manner. But, it may be, they may exert pressure. They do.
Yes, that's what we said.
Yeah.
But in diplomacy, you try to not hurt the people you try to speak with.
Yeah, I guess. But it just, to me, it sounds mushy. Ms. Devandas said such judgments may be influenced by, quote, ableist views of living with a disability, unquote, and precautions that, quote, cost effectiveness considerations may also result in the denial of life-sustaining treatments to some persons with disabilities, end quote. The report focuses on assisted suicide and euthanasia in paragraphs 36 through 38. So there are three main paragraphs where it talks about it. Not the only ones, but these are the three biggies. Paragraph 36 states that assisted suicide and euthanasia is a contentious issue. Well, yeah. It describes the difference between assisted suicide and euthanasia, where they are legal, and points out that places where access is limited to people with terminal illness have lower rates of assisted death than do places where there is no end-of-life eligibility criterion. But interestingly, they don't talk very much about the difference between assisted suicide and euthanasia, which I think is an important point. But
yeah, and
they didn't ask me.
in place there is more assisted suicide. They have a lower rate of use of
Assisted death.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot lower.
Yeah, but nobody consulted me, so
Yeah.
no. Paragraph 37 reads in part, from a disability rights perspective, there is a grave concern that legalizing euthanasia and assisted suicide could put at risk the lives of persons with disabilities.
You think?
There is, yeah, I was going to say, there is a grave concern.
Oh, yeah.
Where is it? I'd like to see it. There were problems if assisted suicide and euthanasia are made available to people, whether or not they're at the end of life. And here are some of the things that they talk about. The assumption, quote, that it is better to be dead than to live with a disability, unquote, could cause persons with a newly acquired impairment to opt for assisted dying based on prejudice, fears, and low expectations of living with a disability before even having the chance of coming to terms with and adapting to their new disability status.
Oh, I think I have heard that somewhere. Yeah. Somewhere around here. Okay.
Yeah.
But now it's UN who do that.
Yeah. It's interesting though. It's not that that's not true, but it's also true that people who live with lifelong disabilities have internalized depression and the same problem, perhaps not to the same degree, but it's also a problem if you live with a disability throughout your life. The second point here is that persons with disabilities may decide to end their lives because of social factors, including loneliness, social isolation, and lack of access to quality support services.
Again, I heard it somewhere here.
Yeah. And finally, persons with disabilities, particularly older persons with disabilities, may be vulnerable to explicit or implicit pressures, including expectations from family members, financial pressures, cultural message, and even coercion. Why don't they say abuse?
Yeah, but are you sure that it's not you who have written this report? Because all those things we have already talked about it before.
Yeah, except for she didn't consult me. I would have made it stronger.
Okay.
I would have made this much stronger. Paragraph 38 says, generally, when life-ending interventions are normalized outside the end stage of terminal illness, that's outside the end stage of terminal illness. She's making a distinction there. Persons with disabilities and older people may increasingly feel the need to end their lives. Nevertheless, many disability rights advocates also oppose assisted dying in terminally ill contexts, as they fear it will put at risk persons with new or progressive disabilities or diseases who may be mistakenly diagnosed as terminally ill, but who have many years of life ahead of them. Well, that's not the only reason, and I don't understand. Well, okay, I'll get to this in a second. Is the first sentence intended as the default position, while the second sentence, which is the not dead yet position, is that meant as an alternative opinion? And the NDY position isn't described as thoroughly as the other one. Does that mean that the special rapporteur does not favor it? I don't know, but those are the questions that leapt to my mind when I read that, and it was kind of disturbing. Yeah, I would have written it differently, but there you go. I'm not her. In paragraph 73, Ms. Devandas uses the E word. Eugenic aspirations persist in current debates related to medical and scientific practice concerning disability, such as assisted dying.
Oh,
Yeah.
for a UN people, it's a very, very, very
That's very
strong
strong.
word.
That's very strong. The fact that
Eugenist.
Even there was a first part of that sentence that says, even though there's no more eugenic programs, eugenic aspirations are still involved in the debate. So they use it. The disability rights-based opposition to assisted suicide and euthanasia has always been aware of this link, but we have been called paranoid by assisted suicide and euthanasia proponents whenever we raise the subject. Will the UN will the UN report transform death to a useful strategy? Maybe that disability activists will have to let our allies, or what Heidi Jans calls our backup singers, croon that chorus.
Yeah.
Finally, paragraph 70 sets out the safeguards that Ms. Devandas believes are necessary, quote, if assisted dying is to be permitted, unquote. So it seems like she's allowing that. First, access to assisted dying should be restricted to those who are at the end of life. Having an impairment should never be a reason for assisted dying to be permitted.
So the judge who said that this part is illegal in Canada should have read this report before.
Right. Well,
yeah. So we sign Canada signed the treaty, and we go against it. Somewhere something fishy.
Right. So, but this is actually going to be really helpful to us when we advocate for the position that the laws as they exist in Canada now discriminate against disabled people.
Yep.
Second, the free and informed consent of persons with disabilities must be secured on all matters relating to assisted dying, and all forms of pressure and undue influence should be prevented.
I wish they would have said something about when you ought to get consent, or the variety of factors preventing disabled people from being taken seriously on this issue.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. Third, access to appropriate palliative care, rights-based supports, home care, and other social measures must be guaranteed.
Oh.
So this also flies in the face of advocates who aren't willing to push for this as a do or die issue. Decisions about assisted death should not be made because life has been made unbearable through a lack of choice and control. Fourth, and this is still in the safeguards, accurate information about the prognosis and availability of peer support counseling must be provided. Well, that's interesting. So they want guarantees of palliative care and home care, but they only want information about peer support. That's interesting. Fifth, Accountability regulations must be established requiring collection and
No.
reporting.
What a good idea.
I know. And reporting of detailed information about each request and intervention for assisted dying. Go ahead, Taylor.
Oh, my first thought on reading all these recommendations is talk to Canada. Does the rapporteur know the specifics of our system? And peer support doesn't seem to be recognized under any official channels. Independent living centers would probably have programs like that, but how many medical professionals would know about them?
And in fact, independent living centers, from my work with the Montreal Center, are really the only place that you can get cross-disability in peer support in Canada, because the services are separated based on diagnosis. So you go to a place that serves your particular diagnosis, and you can't go to a place where you can interact with, sort of generally disabled people, except at independent living centers. And I find that interesting. And certainly you're right, doctors don't know about peer support and why it's important. And you don't really find that very much in the rehab centers. And actually, at this point, people don't spend very long in rehab centers, so they don't get the benefits of the peer network that developed back in the day. So our oversimplified reading of the special rapporteur's opinion can be summed up as follows. Assisted suicide in people with assisted suicide and euthanasia if you must, but only with safeguards. Assisted suicide and euthanasia for disabled people, no way. Right. So that is it for the report, and we have, of course, links to it, and it is worth the read.
All those things could be real fun if it was not so sad.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And the report covers a lot of other topics, so it's worth reading. All right, a court grants extension to pass new MAiD law. The 4-month extension for Parliament to refine and pass Bill C7 in response to the Touchon decision has been granted. Justice Minister David LeMaitre filed a motion requesting the extension on February 17th. Judge Christine Baudouin approved LeMaitre's motion on March 2nd, saying that the federal government's new legislation and recent public consultation show the government's diligence in the matter. The new deadline is July 11th. Judge Baudouin allows those whose deaths are not reasonably foreseeable to apply for an exemption through the courts. She notes that for some people, this extension prolongs both their suffering and the violation of their rights to life, liberty, and security, and equality of the person. Go ahead.
None of the rights the judge mentioned are new, but this time the mention of equality really stood out to me. I don't see a way of interpreting that word without meaning its opposite. And it seems like a really easy way to give in to oppression. It seems like she's giving people the option to say, I'm not equal to you unless I have a chance to escape these poor circumstances that you live in every day.
Right. Yeah. It's why I have always believed that the Carter decision was wrong, but hey, who am I? I'm just a knucklehead, right? Right. Okay.
Nope.
If you want more information about that we discuss here, you can visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/toujours vivant, not dead yet, all one word. You can visit our website at tvndy.ca. You can email us at info@tv-ndy.ca, or you can follow us on Twitter @TVNDY. Thanks to Christian for helping
Thank
out.
you, Amy.
Thanks also to Taylor for helping out.
Thank
And
you,
we
Amy.
will see you next
And
time.
Taylor.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Yay. Everybody,